Hi there, everyone, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, and thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's December 1st. Today we celebrate with the botanist who wrote one of the very first herbals, and we'll also learn about the botanist who wasn't thrilled about getting one of India's first telephones. We'll remember the Hollywood legend who loved to garden, along with his famous wife. And we'll hear an excerpt from a famous garden poem by an English poet. We grow that garden library today with a book that teaches us all the dirt on old and new plants, and it's written by one of the true plant masters of our time. And then we'll wrap things up with the story of a new rose that came out in 2019. And here's a hint. It's divine. All right, let's kick things off by reminding you to head on over to the website and subscribe to the free Friday newsletter for the show. All you need to do is head on over to thedailygardener.org, and then every Friday you'll get my email, and it'll have a personal update from me, garden-related items and reminders for your calendar. You'll get all of the books that were mentioned and the Grow That Garden library segment for the week. Just a nice little list there. You'll have garden gift ideas and garden-inspired recipes from me, and you'll also get exclusive updates regarding the show and more. Plus, each week, one lucky subscriber is going to win a book from the Grow That Garden library bookshelf. So there's a little inspiration for you. All right, let's talk about today's curated news. Today's news is an original blog post that was written by me over on the blog, The Daily Gardener, and it's called December Folklore and Flower. There's a lot of folklore with the month of December. Here are a few examples. December, changeable and mild. The whole winter will remain a child. No matter how long the winter, spring is sure to follow. Thunder in December means fine weather ahead. And frost on the shortest day means winter will be severe. That would be pretty much every winter here in Minnesota. And then here's a little tidbit about folklore regarding the snow. When the world was made, everything except snow was given color. So the snow went out and begged all the flowers to share their color. He talked to the violet, the lilac, the buttercup, and the rose, but they all turned him down. And it was only the snowdrop that offered to share its beautiful, pure white color. And ever since, in thanks, the snow keeps the blooms of the snowdrop safe all winter long. Isn't that sweet? And then December's birth flowers are the holly and the paperwhite. So they're very different from one another. One is a bulb and the other is an evergreen, but they both symbolize hope. Now, traditionally, holly is the symbol of domestic happiness. And bear in mind that while animals and birds can eat holly berries, they're semi-toxic to humans. Meanwhile, the paperwhite, or the narcissus, has fragrant white blooms that symbolize coldness and self-esteem. And in florography, the language of flowers, the paperwhite means that you want your beloved to stay just the way they are. So sweet. All right. Well, if you'd like to check out this original blog post for yourself or any of my curated news articles, remember you can find them all in the free Facebook group for the show, The Daily Gardener Community. So there's never a need to take notes or search for links. The next time you're on Facebook, just search for Daily Gardener Community, where you'd search for a friend and request to join. I'd love to meet you in the group. Here's today's brevities. On this day, December 1st, 1597, The Herbal or General History of Plants by John Gerard was first published. In the herbal, John shared over 800 species of plants, and he shared beautiful woodcut illustrations. During his lifetime, John was allowed to garden on land at Somerset House, and for a time he served as an herbalist to King James I. Today, the Shakespeare Birthplace Trust sells Christmas cards that feature John Gerard's woodcuts of holly, pears, and mistletoe, and they're beautiful. The Shakespeare Birthplace Trust cares for Shakespeare's family homes and shares the love of Shakespeare from his hometown of Stratford-upon-Avon. Anyway, if you'd like to support a great organization and enjoy the John Gerard Christmas cards and gift wrap, head on over to shop.shakespeare.org.uk, and I've put a link to it in today's show notes. It's a lovely Christmas gesture. And on this day, December 1st, in 1910, the Scottish botanist and surgeon Andrew Thomas Gage wrote from India to complain about some new technology that he'd been given, the telephone. Andrew served as the director of the Botanical Survey of India, and he worked at the Botanic Garden in Calcutta. He wrote, "They forced this invention of the devil upon me. Fortunately, the thing has a knack of getting out of order." And it was on this day, December 1st, in 1932, that the American actor Clark Gable was photographed at his Beverly Hills villa watering his flowers. And I'll share that picture in the Facebook group for the show, so you can check it out there. Now, by the end of the decade, Clark would marry Carole Lombard, an actress who shared Clark's love for the natural world. As newlyweds, Carole and Clark had bought a 21-acre estate just 40 minutes outside of Beverly Hills. Instead of living glamorously, they turned their estate into a working farm, and Carole had sold her star sapphire collection to fund their dream. Carole set up all the crops they would grow, and she worked long hours on the ranch. They had an orchard and citrus grove, a dairy and a vineyard, and the farm produced peaches, grapes, oranges, lemons, walnuts, apricot, hay, and alfalfa. They used the alfalfa they grew for feed, and they sent their grapes to the local hospital. The Farmers Association marketed their citrus crop for them, and many biographies mention that Carole and Clark raised turkeys for MGM to use at its commissary. In a touching gesture, Carole bought Clark a tractor, and Clark enjoyed taking care of his 2 prized racehorses and the cattle. To top it all off, Carole and Clark called each other Ma and Pa. They were really and truly living a farm fantasy, and they even used kerosene lamps in their living room. Carole and Clark loved their simple life together on the ranch, and they both loved watching things grow. But Clark and Carole's life together ended suddenly when her plane crashed shortly after taking off from the airport in Las Vegas. Carole's death was crushing to Clark. Today, in honor of his request, Clark Gable is buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery next to Carole. In unearthed words, today is the anniversary of the death of the English poet Ebenezer Elliott, who died on this day, December 1st, 1849. Ebenezer wrote a beloved garden poem called To the Bramble Flower. Here's an excerpt. Thy fruit full well the schoolboy knows, wild brambles of the brake. So put thou forth thy small white rose. I love it for his sake. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Plant Thropology by Ken Drews. This book came out in 2008. It's a favorite of mine, and the subtitle is The Myths, Mysteries, and Miracles of My Favorite Garden Flowers. The subtitle alone made me want to buy it all those years ago. Well, in this book, Ken teaches us all the dirt, old and new, on plants in this beautifully illustrated book. Now, what I love about Ken's book is that it's full of stories about plants. Ken shares new information, he shares some plant controversies, and he even dispels common myths. And Ken's book is a collection of tidbits. He shares random and delightful brevities about our favorite topic, plants. For instance, if you like winding down on a terrace or a patio after work, Ken suggests planting petunias. Why? Because they are evening fragrant and their pollinators only come out at night. And we meet bumblebees who literally shake pollen free from flowers with sonic vibrations. Ken even offers a primer on florography or the language of flowers. The gardenia says, "I love you in secret." And the acacia says, "Let's be friends." This book is 288 pages of anecdotal garden wisdom and tidbits from one of our time's true plant masters. You can get a copy of Planthropology by Ken Drews and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $15. But I want to warn you that there's only a few at that price point, and then they go way up from there, like way up, because this book is out of print and it's a collectible. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. Today, December 1st, in 1945, the American singer, songwriter, actress, comedian, and film producer Bette Midler was born in Honolulu. In 1979, Bette starred in her first movie called The Rose. Now, she didn't win an Academy Award for her Rose performance. That award went to Sally Field for Norma Ray. But 40 years later, in 2019, Bette was honored by the New York Botanical Garden with a rose named in honor of her stage persona, the Divine Miss M. On June 19th, 2019, the New York Botanic Garden introduced Bette's white yellow rose with a fragrance of mint and lime at the New York Restoration Project Spring Picnic at the Botanical Garden in New York City. In 1995, Bette started the New York Restoration Project, a nonprofit that renovates and restores neglected New York City parks to ensure green space for all New Yorkers. And after receiving her honor at the Botanical Garden, Bette commented, "I didn't win the Oscar for the rose. Of course, I never think about it. But I do want to say right now, there's no Norma Ray rose." Well, by the end of the event, Bette led the crowd in a rose song sing-along. She started out with Lynn Anderson's Rose Garden, then her own version of The Rose, and then wrapped things up with Everything's Coming Up Roses. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced in lovely Wyoming, Minnesota with the help of Paige Mance, Brooke Bierbaum, Kiana Rayleigh, Maddie Doyle, Natalie Decker, and Eric Begay. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, and listeners always have a standing invitation to join the free Facebook group for the show. Just search for Daily Gardener Community the next time you're on Facebook and request to join. All the the stories and books that are featured on the show can be found over at thedailygardener.org, thedailygardener.org. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for my free Friday newsletter. Last but not least, you can share your own gardener greetings on the show by emailing me at jennifer@thedailygardener.org. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and as always, have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.